I don't like to be wasteful, but I wasn't going to be able to finish that.
Yeah.
There's no way that was going to make it through.
Wow.
Yeah, not a fan.
There's somebody out there
Huh?
There's someone out there that loves that flavor.
No, I'm sure, but not us.
Not us.
We are not that someone. We are not that someone. Nope, nope, nope. We're going to have our regular coffee. Hey, Shell. Hey, Becca. Ooh, Becca, did you see what happened last night? I only have 15 minutes before my company town hall. That sounds truly awful. I'm so sorry. So incredibly sorry about that. Weird. Emma, yes. You did see. You saw that I accidentally called you Emma. Oopsies. Whoopsie doopsie. Was an accident. Hello. The reunion was pretty pointless. It was poorly planned, and it was at a smoky bar that smelled like yucky. I talked to my sister about it the next morning, and my sister had a really interesting point, and she started listing all the things. So my sister, when really? Oh, I didn't know that. When my sister worked before she had, I've made a mess. When my sister had a full-time job before she had children, she was in marketing and she did a lot of events, like pretty big events, right? And so when I told her, she said, how was the reunion? And I said, you know, it was pretty pointless, actually. Like, it was very poorly planned, and I told her all the things or whatever. And she started listing, like, without even thinking about it, off the top of her head, all the things that she would do if she were planning a reunion for, like, her class or whatever. And I was like, wow, that's actually kind of genius. Like, all of her ideas were extremely good. And she was like, yeah, I hated high school, so there's no way I'm participating. But if I were in charge, this is what I would do.
Yeah.
They were amazing ideas.
Of course.
I was like, wow, you should plan everyone's reunion.
But it's not planning just to have a bunch of ideas. So the hard part is the implementation.
Well, yeah, but I mean, she's done bigger events than a high school reunion.
For sure.
So she could do it. But
I mean, these people just go to this dive bar every week anyways. They're just like, let's have a reunion this week.
So weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, she had all these cool ideas, and I was like, man, you should totally do that. And she was like,
what was the coolest idea?
The coolest idea was to have a like carnival game style situation that would help you remember each person and what they were known for in school. I was like, that's actually pretty cute.
Nobody wants that.
Yes, it's cute. And so she was like, she would have done that, and she said the playlist would be only songs from the years they were in school. That obviously makes perfect sense, right? And she said a whole bunch. I have it all written. She had it in a text message. You're hosting your high school reunion in Italy with only people you like. That's fair, yeah. Yes, good morning.
That's logical.
Yeah.
That's logical.
Yeah.
Wanting to see everyone from high school do the same.
But we are reading Britney Spears this morning, you guys. I do not. I don't think Britney Spears went to high school.
Yes, she did. Every day is a high school.
What?
Because it's this one.
Thank you.
It's seamless.
Thank you. But anyway, my sister is better than whoever planned my reunion. That's all I guess I'm saying. Which isn't really hard because the bar was low, but also my sister's pretty cool. So, whatever. Anyway,
She would say the bar was in hell.
The bar was in hell. La, 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 la. So yeah, that's what's up. How's your coffee, babe? Oh, you don't have it yet. Here you go, baby.
I am disappointed that you and your friends didn't start a cappella singing at any point.
That's because none of the people, except for Marty and I, who were in choir, were there. Only Marty and I from any of the choirs were there. Dave was in it a little bit and Nick was in it a little bit, but they were only there because we needed more male voices and they weren't very good. I don't, Allie, I don't. I made it. I guess we finished Land of Stories. No, they didn't, Tiffany. It ended on a cliffhanger.
Oh.
Yeah, ended on a cliffhanger. Wild times, right? Wild times. This morning we are going to read Britney Spears, though. We are starting Britney's book today.
And the title is?
The Woman in Me.
Really?
Yeah.
I feel like there have to be like 10 to 20,000 biographies without women called The Woman in Me.
That is entirely possible. All right. So, who here is a Britney Spears fan? Who grew up as a Britney Spears fan? Who became a Britney Spears fan later? Who was a Britney Spears fan and then gave up on Britney? What's your status on Britney? You're drinking espresso?
I was a fan of the Schoolgirl video. That was pretty cool.
I'm shocked to my core. To my very core.
I love this.
I was
trying to participate.
You are participating. Thank you, honey. It's so kind of you. I was a Britney fan from pretty much Jump. I was one of the people, Morning Bee, I was too obsessed with her and some of my body image issues are from that time. Yeah, but that's not her fault. That's the people around's fault, right? Like, Britney wasn't telling everyone you have to look like this. It was the people around saying that, you know what I mean? So I totally get what you're saying. Yeah, that time. Yeah, exactly. You're totally right. Yeah. So, all right. Let's get into it. Wow. We got pictures. We're probably going to have pictures a lot. Are you going to join book club?
For the pictures.
For the pictures? You want to see the picture? All right.
I just want to hear the intro.
Yeah.
I'm a little curious.
Yeah, I'm curious too. Is anyone else curious?
Because we had
we were wondering yesterday how it was going to start. Does anyone have a prediction before? I haven't looked at the next page, so I don't even know yet. Do you have a prediction of whether it's going to go in order or if it's going to, or if it's going to like start now and go backwards, or like, does anyone have any ideas how it's going to go? Anyway, the dedication says, "For my boys who are the loves of my life," which is very sweet. She has 2 sons, in case anyone doesn't know. Very sweet, and she fought very hard to have them. I listened to the audiobook, so I know, but I won't spoil. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I don't like spoilers. This one's called The Woman in Me. And there's a prologue. Her son's initials are SPF. Oh, no. Womp womp. Wait, really? I thought his name was like Braden or something.
Braden? That's the guy from the show.
Or Jaden or something. Jaden or Braden or... I can't remember now.
All terrible names.
Well, anyway. Prologue. As a little girl, I walked for hours alone in the silent woods behind my house in Louisiana, singing songs. Being outside gave me a sense of aliveness and danger. When I was growing up, my mother and father fought constantly. He was an alcoholic. I was usually scared in my home. Outside wasn't necessarily heaven either, but it was my world. Call it heaven or hell, it was mine. Before going home, I would follow the path to our neighbor's house, through the landscaped yard and past a swimming pool. They had a rock garden full of small, soft pebbles that would trap the heat and stay warm in a way that felt so good against my skin. I would lie down on those rocks and look up at the sky, feeling the warmth from below and above, thinking, I can make my own way in life. I can make my own dreams come true. Lying quietly on those rocks, I felt God. Interesting. Sean Preston. Fetter, whatever their dad's name is. Chapter 1.
Raising kids in the South used to be more about respecting your parents and keeping your mouth shut. Today, the rules have reversed. It's more about respecting the kids. Disagreeing with a parent was never permitted in my house. No matter how bad it got, there was an understanding to stay mute, and if I didn't, there were consequences. In the Bible, it says your tongue is your sword. My tongue and my sword were singing. My whole childhood, I sang. I sang along with the car radio on the way to dance class. I sang when I was sad. To me, singing was spiritual. I was born and I went to school in Macomb, Mississippi, and I lived in Kentwood, Louisiana, 25 miles away. Everyone knew everyone in Kentwood. Doors were left unlocked. Social lives revolved around church and backyard parties. Kids were put in matching outfits, and everyone knew how to shoot a gun. The area's main historic site was Camp Moore, a Confederate training base built by Jefferson Davis. Each year there are Civil War reenactments and the weekend before Thanksgiving, and the sight of the people dressed up in military outfits was a reminder that the holiday was coming. I loved that time of year. Hot chocolate, the smell of the fireplace in our living room, and the colors of the fall leaves on the ground. We had a little brick house with green striped wallpaper and wood paneling. As a girl, I went to Sonic, rode go-karts, played basketball, and attended a Christian school called Park Lane Academy. The first time I was truly touched and got shivers down my spine was hearing our housekeeper singing in the laundry room. I always did the family's laundry and ironing, but when times were better financially, my mom would hire someone to help. The housekeeper sang gospel music, and it was literally an awakening to a whole new world, and I'll never forget it. Ever since then, my longing and passion to sing have grown. Singing is magic. When you sing, you stop using the language of, "Hi, how are you?" and you're able to say things much more profound. Singing takes me to a mystical place where language doesn't matter anymore, where anything is possible. All I wanted was to be taken away from the everyday world and into a realm where I could express myself without thinking. When I was alone with my thoughts, my mind filled with worries and fears, but music stopped the noise and made me feel confident, took me to a pure place of expressing myself exactly as I wanted to be seen and heard. Singing took me into the presence of the divine. As long as I was singing, I was half outside the world. I'd be playing in the backyard like any kid would, but my thoughts and feelings and hopes were somewhere else. I worked hard to make things look the way I wanted them to. I took myself very seriously when I shot silly music videos to Mariah Carey songs in my girlfriend's backyard. By age 8, I was a director. Nobody in my town seemed to be doing stuff like that, but I knew what I wanted to see in the world, and I tried to make it so. Artists make things and play characters because they want to escape into a faraway world. And escape was exactly what I needed. I wanted to live inside my dreams, my wonderful fictitious world, and never think about reality if I could help it. Singing bridged reality and fantasy, the world I was living in and the world that I desperately wanted to inhabit. Tragedy runs in my family. My middle name comes from my father's mother, Emma Jean Spears, who went by Jean. I've seen pictures of her and I understand why everyone says we look alike. Same blonde hair, same smile. She looked younger than she was. Her husband, grandfather June Spears Sr., was abusive. Jean suffered the loss of a baby when he was only 3 days old. June sent Jean to Southeast Louisiana Hospital, a by all accounts horrible asylum in Mandanville, where she was put on lithium. In 1966, when she was 31, my grandmother Jean shot herself with a shotgun on her infant son's grave just over 8 years after his death. I can't imagine that grief that she must have felt. The way people talk about men like June in the South is to say nothing was good enough for him and that he was a perfectionist, that he was a very involved father. I would probably put it more harshly than that. A sports fanatic, June made my father exercise long past exhaustion. Each day when my father finished basketball practice, no matter how tired or hungry he was, he still had to shoot more than 100 baskets before he could come inside. June was an officer for the Baton Rouge Police Department and eventually had 10 children with 3 wives. And as far as I can tell, no one had one good word to say about him in the first 50 years of his life. Even in my family, it was said that the Spears men tended to be bad news, especially in terms of how they treated women. Jean was the only wife June sent to the mental hospital in Mandeville. Jean wasn't the only wife that June sent to the mental hospital in Mandeville. He sent his second wife there too. One of my father's half-sisters has said that June essayed her starting when she was 11 until she ran away when she was 16. My father was 13 when Jean died on that grave. I know the trauma is a part of why my father was how he was with my siblings and me, why for him nothing was ever good enough. My father pushed my brother to excel in sports. He drank until he couldn't think anymore. He'd disappear for days at a time. When my father drank, he was extremely mean. But June softened as he got older. I didn't experience the vicious man who had abused my father and his siblings, but rather a grandfather who seemed patient and sweet. My father's world and my mother's world were completely opposite from one another. According to my mother, my mom's mom, my grandmother Lillian Lily Porter, was from an elegant, sophisticated family in London. She had an exotic air about her that everyone commented on. Her mother was British, and her father was from the Mediterranean island of Malta. Hey, is Destiny in here? Her dad was from Malta. That's crazy. Her uncle was a bookbinder. The whole family played instruments, and they all loved to sing. During World War II, Lily met an American soldier, my grandfather, Barney Bridges, at a dance for the soldiers. He was a driver for the generals, and he loved driving fast. She was disappointed, though, when he brought her with him to America. She'd imagined a life like what she had in London. As she rode to his dairy farm in New Orleans, she looked out the window of Barney's car and was troubled by how empty his world seemed. Where are all the lights? She kept asking her new husband. I sometimes think about Lily riding through the Louisiana countryside, looking out into the night, realizing that her large, vibrant, music-filled life of afternoon teas and London museums was about to become small and hard. Instead of going to the theater or shopping for clothes, she would have to spend her life cooped up in the country, cooking, cleaning, and milking cows. So my grandmother kept to herself and read tons of books. She became obsessed with cleaning and missed London until the day she died. My family said that Barney didn't want to let Lily go back to London because he thought if she went, she wouldn't come home. My mother said Lily was so distracted by her own thoughts that she had a tendency to start cleaning the table before anyone was even done eating. All I knew that my grandmother was beautiful, and I loved copying her British accent. Talking in a British accent always made me happy because it made me think of my fashionable grandmother. I wanted to have manners and a lilting voice just like hers. Because Lily had money, my mother Lynn and her brother Sonny and her sister Sandra grew up in what you might consider money, especially for rural Louisiana. Even though they were Protestant, my mom attended Catholic school. She was a gorgeous teenager with her black hair worn short. She would always go to school wearing the highest boots and the tiniest skirts. She hung out with the gay guys in town who gave her rides on their motorcycles. My father took an interest in her, as he well might, and probably in part because June made him work so ridiculously hard. My father was unbelievably talented at sports. People would drive for miles just to see him play basketball. My mom saw him and said, "Oh, who's this?" By all accounts, their relationship was born of a mutual attraction and a sense of adventure. But the honeymoon was over long before I came along. This next segment's only 3 pages. We might as well just read it. Hey, Anya. Morning. Hey, Amanda. When they got married, my parents lived in a small home in Kentwood. My mother was no longer supported by her family, so my parents were very poor. They were young. My mom was 21 and my father was 23. In 1977, they had my big brother, Brian. When they left that first small place, they bought a little 3-bedroom ranch house. After Brian was born, my mom went back to school to become a teacher. My dad, who worked as a welder at an oil refinery, hard jobs that would last a month or sometimes 3, started to drink heavily, and before too long, that was taking its toll on the family. The way my mom tells it, a couple of years into the marriage, my grandfather Barney, my mom's dad, died in a car accident, and in the aftermath, my dad went on a bender, missing Brian's first birthday party. When Brian was a toddler, my father got drunk at a Christmas party and went AWOL on Christmas morning. That time, my mother said she'd had enough. She went to stay with Lily. That March of 1980, she filed for divorce, but June and June's new wife begged her to take him back, and so she did. For a while, apparently, everything was calm. My dad stopped welding and started a construction business. And then after a lot of struggle, he got a gym business going too. It was called Total Fitness, and it transformed some of the men in town, including my uncles, into bodybuilders. He ran it in a detached studio space on our property next door to the house. An endless string of muscular men streamed in and out of the gym, flexing their muscles in the mirrors under the fluorescent lights. My dad started doing really well. In our little town, he became one of the most well-off men. My family threw big backyard crawfish boils. They had crazy parties with dancing all night long. I always assumed their secret ingredient for staying up all night was speed, since that was the drug of choice back then. My mom opened a daycare center with her sister, my Aunt Sandra. To cement their marriage, my parents had a second baby, me. I was born on December 2nd, 1981. My mother never missed an opportunity to recall that she was in excruciating labor with me for 21 hours. I loved the women in my family. My Aunt Sandra, who already had 2 sons, had a surprise baby at 35, my cousin Laura Lynn. Just a few months apart, Laura Lynn and I were like twins, and we were best friends. Laura Lynn was always like a sister to me, and Sandra was a second mother. So she was proud of me and so encouraging. And even though my grandmother Jean was long gone before I was born, I was lucky enough to know her mother, my great-grandmother Lexi Pierce. Lexi was wicked beautiful, always made up with white face and red lipstick. She was a badass more and more so the older she got. I was told and had no trouble believing that she'd been married 7 times. 7! Obviously, she disliked her son-in-law June, but after her daughter Jean died, she stuck around and took care of my father and his siblings, and then her great-grandchildren too. Lexi and I were very close. My most vivid and joyful memories of being a little girl are of spending time with her. We had sleepovers, just the 2 of us. At night, we'd go through her makeup cabinet, and in the morning, she would make me a huge breakfast. Her best friend, who lived next door, would come over to visit, and we'd listen to slow 1950s ballads from Lexi's old record collection. During the day, Lexi and I would nap together. I loved nothing more than drifting off to sleep by her side, smelling her face powder and perfume, listening to her breathing as it grew deep and regular. One day, Lexi and I went to rent a movie. As we drove away from the video rental place, she ran into another car and then got stuck in a hole. We couldn't get out. A tow truck had to come rescue us. That accident scared my mother. From then on, I wasn't allowed to hang out with my great-grandmother. It wasn't even that bad of an accident, I told my mother, and I begged to see Lexi. She was my favorite person. No, I'm afraid she's getting senile, my mom said. It's not safe for you to be alone with her anymore. After that, I saw her at my house, but I couldn't get in the car with her or have sleepovers with her ever again. It was a huge loss for me. I didn't understand how being with someone that I loved could be considered dangerous. At that age, my favorite thing to do besides spending time with Lexi was hiding in cabinets. It became the family joke, "Where's Brittany now?" At my aunt's house, I always disappeared. Everyone would mount a search for me. Just when they started to panic, they'd open a cabinet door and there I'd be. I must have wanted them to look for me. For years, that was my thing, to hide. Hiding was the one way I got attention. I also loved dancing and singing. I sang in the choir of our church, and then I took dance classes 3 nights a week and on Saturdays. Then I added gymnastics class an hour away in Covington, Louisiana. When it came to dancing and singing and acrobatics, I couldn't get enough. At career day in elementary school, I said I was going to be a lawyer, but neighbors and teachers started to say that I was Broadway bound, and eventually I embraced my identity as the little entertainer. I was 3 at my first dance recital and 4 when I sang my first solo, What Child Is This?, for a Christmas performance at my mother's daycare. I wanted to hide, but I also wanted to be seen. Both things could be true. Crouched in the cool darkness of a cabinet, I felt so small that I could disappear. But with everyone's eyes on me, I became someone else, someone who could command a room. In white tights, belting out a song, I felt like anything was possible. All right. Well, that's an interesting start.
All right.
Yeah. Sounds like her family's more screwed up than we even thought. Her grandfather sounds like a wild, awful individual, sending 2 of his wives to insane asylums. I mean, you can almost convince, I know, Jamie Lynn is a wild ride. She's a wild ride. I'm very interested to see what she has to say about Jamie Lynn. Well, that is that. I have to go eat breakfast and then write and then go pack more advent calendars because that is the name of the game all week long. I do have to make base later, so if I have time to make base, maybe I'll come do it on live in the afternoon. I don't know. Depends on when we do what today. But if you got an email last night with a tracking number for your advent calendar, that means that it is going to the post office today, and you should get it soon. Don't forget the website is not live yet. It's just the slimes coming. The website will be live probably next week, but definitely by December 1st. So that is good. Man needs some aqua tofana. What's that? What's that? I don't know what that means. Okay, all right. I love y'all. I'll see you later, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. You have to go pack slimes? Yeah, same. Literally same. Bye, guys.